creativity or how to be able to expand your creative faculties. My name is Melisande Rebello, and I'm going to be your facilitator for today. A little bit about me, okay, is that I've got a total of 18 years of work experience. And I started off as a person who would manage teams and operations. So I do have a lot of on ground experience and gradually progressed to the role of a manager in the organization development team. Now, some of my key strengths in the line of training would be that of a behavioral analyst. And also, I partner with companies to not only train their people, but also to understand what part of the system needs to be re engineered to be able to support good talent. So that's me in a nutshell. And that's my experience that I brought with me over the last 18 years. Now, the reason why we're doing this creativity workshop today is manifold. You can see that right now there are all of you that have stepped up in very, very different ways to be able to still engage your teams, engage your customers, manage your different roles, all in very, very creative ways, despite not being able to have this luxury of the same face to face interactions. This pandemic has really pushed us out of our comfort zones and made us think in different ways and made us utilize different technologies and different support systems, create probably newer avenues to be able to still sustain business or sustain connections. And I think that it's really powerful that, we are doing a workshop like this at a time like this so that we can support you going further. Now, a little bit before we go into the workshop is a few ground rules that will help us to let this workshop flow seamlessly. The first would be that you're put on mute, all right? Not because, I'm allergic to people, but in fact, I love my participants and I love the interaction. The only thing that gives me a tick as a trainer right now is the fact that I cannot see y'all or the fact that I cannot talk directly to y'all. But because we have an hour and I would like to share as much as I can on the topic of creativity, this is going to be some sort of a monologue. Okay, but I promise to keep it interesting. Uh, but whenever you want to say something, I do have the option of you getting on chat, okay, and just going ahead and posting a question, posting an insight. Okay, I do want to hear from you all. So whenever you have that little idea that goes off in your head, okay, or a little light bulb moment, or even an aha moment, let us know about it, okay? Because I too, as a facilitator, am craving for human contact right now. And then in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to answer any questions that you might have about whether this is creativity or not, whether this is audacious thinking, or is this creative enough? So, what I have been doing all along is, has that been creativity? So, I'm here to answer all those questions for you because Lord knows I've read enough of books and done enough of trainings on the subject. And like I said earlier, there are going to be activities to keep the momentum going and to also let you experience these concepts today. So this will be the time for you to go ahead and, just throw all caution to the wind and go get on chat and give us your suggestions whenever there is a question posed to you. Today, the first thing that we need to do is drop all filters, okay, before we engage in this session. So what are we going to learn? All right. The first thing I'm going to teach you is who is a creative thinker. Now, by that, I mean you need to have some signposts, right, when you are being creative so that you know that you are actually using your creativity. So I'm going to teach you a few, I'm going to bring to your awareness a few behaviors of creative person, some of the thought patterns, and also some of the habits that creative thinkers use while coming up with a unique solution or something that is out of the box, as they say. Please picture me making bunny quotes when I said that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is everyone's talking about innovation. Everyone wants to set up innovative, hubs in their office and create an innovation culture. So I'm going to talk about what is creativity's composition in innovation, and why is it that I've said creativity turning into innovation and not that they are the same thing? So there is a difference between the two, and I'm here to straighten that out. Okay, for those of you that are a little bit, obscure on it. Even I was, I was thinking as long as I was creative and colorful, why isn't that counted as innovative sometimes? But big difference. All right. So how am I going to do that? We've been doing it since time immemorial. I'm going to give you a lot of legendary examples on, how innovation has helped us progress from one stage of, of the human race to the other. And it's still continuing today. In fact, today you're going to be asked to be even more creative, even more of a people's person than you were before. And that's soon going to change in the next 20 years. So a little bit more on that timeline as well. Then this workshop would be useless if I did not teach you a few techniques. So we're going to do, 2 techniques at least for expansive thinking. All right. And those are going to be based on just 2 rules of creativity. So I've taken all the information on creativity and I've summed them up into 2 rules that you can just remember. The moment you recall them back to mind, you will know whether you're on the right track and you're showing the right behaviors, whether you're using the right thought processes to create new ideas or new pathways in your brain. And then apart from that, I'm going to also take you out of your comfort zone and show you some very unconventional tools to problem solving, which is flexibility exercises. I call them radical association because they're radical in their approach. All right, and a little bit more on that later. And things that you can do in a matter of minutes every day while you are sitting down and having a cup of chai, or you are in your car and stuck in a traffic jam, or you're waiting at, I'm not going to say waiting at the airport because right now that's just going to scare a lot of us. But if you're waiting in any line, and you've got nothing else to do. So most of us, we resort to digital escapism by pulling out our cell phones. But I'm going to teach you some things that you can do in a matter of just 30 seconds sometimes. All right. And you can do it in the comfort of your mind. You don't need any physical tools. All you need is your imagination. All you need is your attention. And I bet, and I promise you, you will have fun with this. So that's going to be your creativity boot camp that you can engage in 30 seconds every day. You can pick from the myriad of examples and exercises that I give you. Now, moving on. The first thing, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Okay, I'm putting it on the clock. And this is my first question to you. This is where we begin. All right. You all can go on chat. I'm going to monitor your responses so that I can see what they are. And tell me, what according to you is creativity? How would you explain creativity? Everybody on chat, your time starts now. Feel free at this point, like I said, drop all filters. Give me your understanding of what creativity is. It could be writing a book. It could be making, like doing art. Okay, so Bhakti has opened up, the responses to what she calls thinking out of the box. I think Bhakti remembered my little bunny quotes from earlier. Okay, so yes, thinking out of the box, definitely. I used to always ask, where is this box before I ever started exploring my creativity. So Aparna says that it's something which is simple to understand, not just for me, but for everyone. So Aparna, that's a real creative answer, and that's a real insightful answer, in terms to what is creativity. So, all right, if you could shed some more light on that, which is, what exactly is, how is creativity simple to understand? Okay.
Hi, so my name is Aparna.
Yes, Aparna.
Hi. So like I mentioned, it can be anything. According to me, it can be anything. I mean, it can be as simple as something like you mentioned, or as hard as something as you mentioned, like writing a book, right? Or as simple as maybe even creating your room as to how you want to put a thing where you want it to be. But I actually wouldn't know how to put it in words, but it's just that in my mind, if I am creating something, I would want it to be in a way where I understand. I want to understand, but I want my other colleagues or my peeps to also understand in that way.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. Okay, so you're taking a
Thank you.
unique perspective of your own, Aparna, and you want to be able to translate it into an approach which is user-friendly for everyone,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. I think you hit the nail on the head over there, and I'm going to piggyback on that and move ahead in the session. Okay, Alicia says it's thinking differently. Yeah, absolutely. And it is definitely about diverging from your current way of seeing something. All right. And drifting away from bias, that is a very powerful answer, which is noticing when you have a tendency to lean favorably towards a particular idea. Okay. So Pratik, that was really, really good. All right. And we also look at preconceived notions while executing tasks. So, lucky for you today, we are definitely going to look at how we can process re-engineer with creativity as well. Okay, so thank you very much, all of you, for those, all of those very, very insightful answers. Now, the next thing, all right, that we're going to go to is understanding creativity a little bit more. Now, you all can use your chats if you all want. How many of you all recognize the the piece of art put up over there? How many of you all know what it is? You all can just type the answer into your chat boxes. It's something that is seen very, very often. You've probably seen it at restaurants. You've seen it on T-shirts. You've probably seen it if you have at any point traveled. Okay, we've got Vincent van Gogh's self-portrait. All right, so Pratik, very good. All right, full points on that answer. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because creativity, at the dawn of understanding what creativity was, the first creatives that were ever thought, to be actually creative people were artists, sculptors, painters. You've got Michelangelo, who was known for painting the roof of the Sistine Chapel. He was also a sculptor. Okay, you've got Vincent van Gogh. If any of you all know about him, he was very notoriously known for, cutting off his own ear because he was not happy with his own painting. And he was so passionate and driven by the cause of painting that all those portraits that you see on the left are portraits of everyday people that he liked to paint. He was a turning point in art. Okay, so when you all talk about, when Bhakti was talking about seeing things, from a personal point of view, or sorry, that was Aparna, and, Alicia's talking about thinking differently. Vincent van Gogh is a good example of that because he literally, turned art, away from painting pictures of religious scenes towards painting pictures of farmers and capturing emotions in their face and in the finer lines. And also developing a new technique of painting, which you see in the art over there. Then, come the 2000s, creativity enters the workspace, and the next form of creatives to be known of in organizations are your advertising professionals. So I put up a few ads over there because if you go to any ad company, you will see that they have a specific creative team, or a content company will have a content team that is the sole proprietors of all the design in the company. So you can see some ads over there, like, how many of you recognize the gentleman on the left quickly on your chats in the McDonald's ad? Who do you think he is? Okay, that is correct. That's Albert Einstein, and he is a pioneer in a lot of knowledge and a lot of theories that have stayed true till today. And in that one, he's contemplating what's for lunch. So McDonald's strategically got the right person to do that. And as you can see, they are play on someone who is very, very smart, okay, knowing how important it is to just figure out what's for lunch before he can think about his next theory. And and if you can go back, if you ever need any inspiration, you can always check out the Lego ads that you can. I've given you an example on the right hand side. So that was the second phase of, creativity coming a little bit closer to home. Now, let's see, how does creativity exist for us? All right. So there have been different interpretations to creativity, but let me just go ahead and sum it all up for you. So, like you all were saying, you know, um, creativity is really about producing a new or an imaginative idea, okay, and taking that idea and turning it into something that is real and tangible, okay, just like Aparna said earlier. Now, what are the, like, so when you're being creative, what exactly are you doing? You're probably looking at the world in a very, very different, in a new way from before. Okay, if you earlier saw, like, I'll give you a very simple example from one of the organizations that I worked in. I worked with a team in customer service. Okay, and I was kind of doing a consultation project to understand what are their training needs, and they had just been put into a customer service department that was meant for a specific kind of transaction where they were supposed to charge customers more for a service that they were earlier getting for free. So, the very cultural aspect took over, and like all of us we would start our sentence with, "I'm sorry, but you are going to have to pay this fee." And I looked at it and I said, when a customer sees you as helpless and they perceive themselves helpless also in the same situation, it doesn't make them feel any better. It doesn't make them feel pity for you. In fact, it just makes them more angrier. So when we shared this insight with, quality and training, quality and training took a decision to come up with, to go ahead and, completely make sorry a rebuttal that would have very serious consequences on their overall audit score. And we saw them coming up with newer ways of trying to handle the customer's dismissal of the fee. So in a way, creativity is also then so about, if I can't say sorry, how can I justify this fee? How can And then they started owning the fee. So it's about finding patterns that are hidden, that are there in your mind, that the logic is there or the reasoning is there. Okay, you know that that fee exists for a reason. It's just that you've not found it before. Okay, it's like a water being dropped on a rock. If you drop water in the same place in a rock over a period of time consistently in the same spot, even though the water is a soft element, the rock is a very, very hard and very difficult to alter surface, ultimately you will see cracks forming. That's the nature of creativity. The more you kind of hold on to a concept in your mind, the more the brain will try to make sense of that concept, whether it be a fee, whether it be a new technology that you're trying to sell to your team, okay, and get them to adapt to better. The more you hold that in your mind, the more it's going to form kind of a new neural pathway. And creativity is also, like you said, take two things that seem completely unrelated and put them together and see what's the connection between them, and can there be a solution that comes from it, because you never really looked, like Pratik was talking about biases, okay, because we're biased towards, like, for example, we're biased towards a phone being a communication device. And this was, I'm talking about 15 years ago when I started working. a phone was a communication device, and never did we know that we would be able to do everything right down to banking and having video conversations at minimal costs with our family members and with a whole group of family members, the way I'm doing with all of you right now, and sometimes with 40 to 200 people. Little did we know that our phones would be able to do that. But can we even look at our phones today and think of them without the touch feature? Or think of how useful they'd be without the internet feature, the high speed data processing that it does? So that's how, the whole point of transitioning a phone from a communication device to a multimedia and today to a connectivity device happened. Different phenomenon at one point in time, but very possible today and very difficult to live without. And of course, creativity, like the example of our phones right now, it makes life better. It makes it more vibrant. So if you are feeling vibrant, if you're feeling happy about your solutions, if you can see people, feeling that this is easier, it's simpler, there's so much more time for joy, then you're being creative. Now, moving on, I told you I'd talk about innovation, right? So how is innovation different? Now, innovation is a little more, if I could say it this way, it's a little more sustainable than creativity. All right. So innovation is where you come up with a completely new solution or an extremely improved way of doing something. Okay. Not a marginally improved process, but I'm talking about overhauling a process or a product to such a great extent, okay, that it has turned into something that will service customers, governments, societies, and it is something that they would start paying for. Okay, so when we're talking about innovations, let me can you give me examples? All right, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. If you could give me examples of what are some of the innovations that that you have seen or yourself. Your time starts now. You can use your chat and go ahead and think about it. I know this will take some time, but what, according to you, are innovations that you have come across? Okay, so smart home automation, absolutely. Oh my gosh, yeah. The Internet of Things, Pratik, absolutely right. I mean, you take all of this data and you put it to some use to be able to predict train schedules, telecommunications, artificial intelligence. Okay, so looks like we're all currently aware and we're all currently, reaping the benefits of the information age. So that's really good. So apart from smart home automation or telecommunication, can anybody uh, give us a perspective of anything that was entertainment related or anything that was more business related? So let me give you an example to kind of jog your thinking process or get your thinking juices flowing. So we have Ola and Uber. Okay, so I can see my music fans talking about Walkman to iPods, and so that is a very very good example. And iPods, led to a whole myriad of other innovations like MP3s that were cheaper. Digital platforms like Hotstar are OTT platforms. Okay, Netflix right now, one of our recluses during COVID, which is Netflix and chill. Okay, it's our comfort zone that we retreat to at the end of the day where we are missing human contact. So of course, yes. Can you imagine taking something like internet TV, YouTube, and then creating it into this whole platform of entertainment with these different channels where you get even up until the application is so extensive that it even goes into being able to show you the news. Okay, so one of the examples is horse carts. okay, to cars, and cars then going into transport, making trade more effective, making trade faster, growing nations. So it's replicable, it's economically beneficial. um, when it's an innovation, you go beyond the intent that it was created for. Cars were not just for transport then, or for people that could own them, like rich families. Then they started being used for everything. All right. And mostly, sometimes it fills a gap that we don't know existed. Okay. Like, for example, the iPod, like Alicia said. Nobody knew. I mean, we were quite happy with our Walkmans, and then, the CDs that was so much more finer and compact. And then Steve Jobs says that he wants to take all of his daughter's music and be able to put it in a device that she can hold in her hand, or people can just put in their jean pockets. And that's how the iPod was born. Or smartphones, for that example, a device that could make calls, listen to music, and also stream on the internet. So that's innovation. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move a little bit further, all right? And as we can see, each age has its innovation. And here I'm on this topic because I want to talk about why is this important today for you, all of you, especially the ones, all of us over here that are talking about digital platforms, telecommunication. It's because the Stone Age had its tools, okay, like its rocks, its agricultural tools that help people settle down. People, then once they stayed in one place, they came up with coal, they discovered steam, they discovered transport that led to the wheel and the whole industrial age. And finally, after the industrial age came, the whole the computers and the amount of information that suddenly started being housed or collated on the web. Finally, now, if we look at what age of innovation are we in? Okay, the age of innovation that we're in is what we call the conceptual age. And it is said that creatives, or people who are creative, all right, and when we're talking about being creative, we're talking about being able to look at things from different perspectives. They are the ones that are going to pretty much rule the business world for the next 20 years. Because a conceptual age is literally like, I'll give you an example of a surgeon. If you were a surgeon, okay, and you came up with inventive techniques to solve medical problems that have not been solved up till today, all right, then that would be innovation, because that would be innovation on a large scale. Or if you were able to reach very, very remote areas and be able to come up with technology that would be able to do scans where there weren't, where there wasn't the ability to go ahead and get a sonogram done, then that would be able to reduce your rates of certain deadly diseases. So the conceptual age, as you can see over there, with the world kind of eclipsing the coronavirus, is all about, as a professional, are you able to take all this information that you've got in the information age, and are you able to extract concepts and create more ideas with it? So I'm going to jump straight into it. All right. Now, for this next one, I'm going to show you 8 questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer the questions in yes or no. Don't answer it on chat. Just look at all 8 questions. And on chat, you've got to put down the number of questions that you have said yes to. So if there are a total of 8 questions and you feel like you have answered yes to 5 of them, the number 5 comes on chat. Okay, so here we go. If anybody has any questions, you all can also ask them on chat. Okay, Pratik is a real fast learner, fast reader into speed reading. So you've got all 8. All right, Pratik. This is not a competition, guys. Alicia's got 6. Okay, that's impressive. All right, very nice. So, like I said, this isn't a competition. You could even get 3, and we would, and people will still love you. So we've got Monica who's saying 7. Okay. Some of us are still reading the questions. I hope that, you know, you'll have not gone back to your childhoods and you'll have thinking about all those fun experiences. So this is why I asked the question, which is this is to figure out how creative do you think you are? All of those questions over there are related to creative abilities, your ability to daydream, have lucid, flowing daydreams, your ability to create meals or create fashion or music, your ability to interpret music or movie plots, and to be able to appreciate different kinds of art. All of that takes creative faculties. So you have the raw materials. If you've answered yes to even three of those questions, that means that you are innately creative and you've got the goods. You just need to start knowing how to use them. So, moving on then, how do we develop creativity? So, a scientist a researcher, and you can go on to TED and you can check this out. He is responsible for overhauling the culture of IBM and uh, overhauling it in terms of making them even more innovative since the year 2013. So, he said that actually growing up is what kills creativity, right? And you can definitely relearn it, okay, by and the main tools or the main ways in which you do is by associating, okay, it's questioning, observing, networking is very surprisingly come into a creativity space, and also experimenting. Now, how many of you all noticed something on that slide? Can you all can you all point that out for me? If any of you all noticed something different on that slide, you all got about 15 seconds to see whether your feature detection is good. Alicia, you won the race. Two fours, 2 points, number four, Bhakti, okay. All right. Aparna also. Okay. Now, the reason why I did that was extremely intentional. All right. Here's here's why. I'm sure a lot of you saw both the fours over there, and even I did, to be very honest with you. And I'm going to actually, say something that will actually raise your hopes at the end of this. Now, when you see two fours, obviously you're reading a sequence of numbers and you're thinking one, two, three, four, and the next number is five. All right, but what you can see over there, immediately your brain picks up that there's something wrong in that sequence and that there are two fours, so that's an error. Now, when you're thinking logically, all right, you would think, no, there should be a five after that. But if I have to ask you to try to hold those two fours in your frame of reference and try to make sense of them, and if I tell you that that pattern is actually right, what would you say? All right, how would you make sense of it? You all can just type in your answers. Maybe it could be that networking and experimenting would be the same thing to me as your trainer. Maybe that's the message that I was trying to send out. Or maybe they are of equal importance. But simply, okay, what I was trying to show you is the difference between logical thinking and creative thinking. Now, logical thinking is where you're thinking very vertically in terms of, okay, so like Bhakti says, they go hand in hand. Yeah, networking and experiment. Sometimes networking is quite an experiment, isn't it? It's an experiment on your social skills. It's an experiment on, you know, how liked you are and your self-esteem. So, Bhakti, that's absolutely right. But see, that's creative now, guys. So, but what I was also referring to is that, like I was saying, your logical mind. Your logical mind is going to think, okay, after one, two, three, and four, is four supposed to be repeated again? And it says no. So that's logical thinking. And you're right. From a logical point of view, that's not correct sequence. But from a creative point of view, that kind of thwarts or it kind of stops you from being creative. Okay, when you start thinking in a yes and no format or a right and wrong format, that is when you are inhibiting or you're preventing yourself from being creative. So we're going to get into the first in this program. What I am going to aim to do is I'm going to aim to cover some form of all 5 ways of developing creativity if time permits us. But I am going to focus on the first 3 because that is going to be very, very pivotal to you all in your roles in your organization. So, is that okay with everyone? And also, since we begun a little bit late because of the login issues, is it all right? I'm going to ask people if we extend this workshop to about 5:15 and nothing more than that, just till 5:15. Is that fine with everyone? Just use your chat if you can. And if you can't and you're not having as much fun, then we can always let go of you. All right. Okay. People seem excited, and so am I. All right. So let's start with the first one, which is associating. All right. Now, I'm going to teach you how to associate. I'm also going to teach you a really fun one, which is questioning the status quo. You know how your bosses always tell you, you need to question the status quo. You need to think outside the box. And like I said, where is the box? So I'm going to show you where the box is. And then after that, I'm also going to show you how to become a very keen Sherlock Holmes, okay, to your Dr. Watsons at work, and how to be able to pick out, certain parts of a process and use, all these big terms like deductive thinking and inductive thinking. But essentially, I'm going to simplify it for you because creativity is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be joyful. So let's begin. I'm going to show you an image and you're going to keep your trigger happy fingers ready on your chat bots. And the moment you'll see that image, I want you guys to humor me and go ahead and type out as many interpretations of that image that you can come up with. So on your marks, get set, go. If you all were expecting a big jigsaw puzzle, then I'm sorry to disappoint you all. It's just an image. So I'm looking at all the A's, the Aparnas, the Alishas, the Pratiks. Okay, so we've got it's a house, it's a nib. Okay. Yeah, if you all can see the chats flowing in as well. So you all are building on each other. So there's an arrow. Alicia says that it's pointing, it looks a little bit pointed towards something. And wow, okay. Aparna, I think I need to have you co-facilitate my next session. So it's the lower part of a tie, according to Aparna. She's been able to flip it in her mind. It's a square and a triangle. And okay, Pratik says it's a bullet through the heart. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we get out of this. So it says, yeah, so the person who said that it's a square with a triangle, Bhakti Khanna, okay, that's one interpretation of it. So, and then the others also who said that it looks like an arrow, like Alicia, and a nib, Pratik, you all are also absolutely right. But here's my interpretation of it, okay? It can also be a rectangle, as you can see there on the right of your screen, with the 2 top edges folded in, like how you would do if you were making a paper plane out of it. Okay, so that's just my interpretation of it. And then, yeah, it's basically a nib, or it's a geometric figure that has been opened up. It was folded down the middle, it's been opened up, and it could be a house as well. So, what exactly do you think we were doing over here? I showed you all a very obscure object, and I told you all to tell me what all did you all think it was. So, what do you think is the main form of thinking, or what do you think that you all were utilizing over here to come up with those answers? Quickly, use your chatbots and give me your thoughts on this. A change in perspective. Yeah, absolutely. The lower part of the tie and the house was definitely a change of perspective. Yeah, different perspectives, different ways of seeing things. Okay, we were using our creativity and we were having fun. So, isn't life so much more fun? And isn't creativity so much more easier when you don't have the whole right and wrong? Like, is this a house, or is this not a house? Is this a geometric figure? It could be anything. It could be two geometric shapes. It could be the representation of an object like a tie or a house. It could even be a rocket, okay, the blueprint of a rocket. So Alicia says right brain thinking, and I like that this workshop is kind of making us a little bit competitive. It's kind of, making me wonder who's going to end up being facilitator by the end of this. But please, guys, give me a run for my money. I wouldn't be a good trainer if I wasn't pushing y'all. So rule number one of creativity is withhold judgment. Don't censor your thinking. The moment you employ not sensory thinking, but censorship in your thinking, which means ये सही है या गलत है? Does this seem right? Does it seem wrong? That means you're measuring it according to something that already exists, which would mean, can I call this a tie? No, it looks like a house, which means you're thinking about a house. A house already exists. But over here, you're actually what you're doing is you're actually doing this, you're carrying out the first rule of creativity, which is dropping the sensor board in your mind. So the moment you find yourself, an easy way to do this is the moment you find yourself thinking, am I right? Am I wrong? Should I say this? Should I not? Then what you're implying is logical thinking and you're not being creative. You're kind of restricting your creativity. Creativity needs to fan out in all directions in terms of geometry, in terms of objects, in terms of the kind of way in which you mangle those objects, all of it. Now, are you ready for another activity? I'm going to go one step further because you all seem to be quite adept at whatever I've been talking about so far. So here's an image for you. Now consider how you would explain this image. And your chat bots are open, so go ahead. A barbel. Okay. All right. Pratik is thinking of a barbel. Come on, girls. I'm sure that we're working out at home. I'm sure we thought barbel as well. But two circles joined by a line. Monica. Okay. All right. The distance between two balls. Okay. All right. We're thinking in terms of metrics. We are thinking in terms of lines. Aparna is talking. Okay. Yeah. Calculating. Of course. Yes. We are talking about measurements. And Baymax from Big Hero 6. Okay. And the two-sided lollipop. The dreams of childhood, I say. I think the lockdown is really, I think some of us, it's coaxed the child out in us. And for some of us, our children have coaxed the children out of us. So a two-sided lollipop, that's very, very inventive. I've never heard that before. But just think about how much of money you could make with that. Uh, Bhakti Khanna, spectacles. Absolutely. John Lennon spectacles. Okay. All right. The shortest distance between A and B. Okay. Now we're thinking about qualitatively measuring the distance, as in what's the shortest distance, not just the distance. Now, over here, all right, I'm going to, when I show you this next image, I'm going to add to this creativity principles that we're learning, okay, the rules. The first rule was no judgment, no censoring. The second rule is sometimes you need to look at the order in which you are looking at things. So if you're looking at it as one big figure, you looked at it as one object. But when you break it down into different elements, like Monica did, I think, with Pratik did with the distance between points A and points B. We also had Aparna who was calculating the distance by using the line. She separated the line from the two dots. So sometimes being able to separate separate an object into its different fragments or elements will give you more options to come up with, just like how you all did with the previous image as well. Now, here's the reason why this happens, and you don't have to worry about whether you can do this or you can't do this, because your brain cannot hold something in its visual field without trying to make sense of it. That's what we mean by free association. It looks at it and it tries to make sense. Okay, it will make new neural pathways that way. So the more things you break up into elements, the more pathways it will create. So I'm going to move on to how we can use this. So my first creativity technique is what I call concept extraction. Now, don't get very, don't get uh, intimidated by the big words. It's exactly what you've been doing all this while, which is if you're trying to come up with a solution, you break the problem up, or you break your initial ideas up into smaller parts, and then what you do is you try to create more ideas from the individual parts. Okay, so and most of the times it's good to put a time limit to do this. That's what it means by point number 4, which is have a quota, have a time in which you're doing this. It makes it a little more effective to have a time limit. Otherwise, people will just get exhausted coming up with different ideas, and they can definitely come up with more ideas, and you can go and add it. But the idea is to get people thinking, to get their juices flowing, and to be able to do it in a way where they're not censoring themselves. That's why I put a time limit to it. You can say 3 minutes to focus on a certain solution. Now, how do we do this? Okay, I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide so you can see the principles. Now, let's say that you are coming up with an app for your team to manage operations or to manage productivity or your tasks during the time of COVID. All right. Now, quickly, some of you have already beat others to the punch in terms of updating your apps. Go ahead and put down on chat what are some of the features that you will think of incorporating in this app now with the new pandemic around and the fact that people are working from home. What are some of the things that you all would include on an office app? It could be the ability of a person to mark their attendance. I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. So just giving you a few conversation starters or something to kind of just, be a catalyst to your thoughts. Could be different health stats. So on your chat, if you all can just go ahead. Okay, so somebody has said collaborative abilities. Meeting notes. Okay, excellent. So a way to summarize and to appraise everybody on meetings. Um, then you've got reminders and deadline indicators. All right, so everyone, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take Prateek's answer. You all don't, if you all want to contribute something, you all can, but I'm going to take Prateek's answer and I'm going to show you how do we do concept extraction. So I'm going to take meeting notes, which he has written down, and reminders or deadline indicators. So when we're talking about meeting notes, okay, what ideas come to mind for all of you? Just put it down on chat. What ideas come to mind when you'll think about meeting notes on an app? It could be to keep everybody to have minutes of the meeting sent out to everyone, or it could be a responsibility matrix. Okay. What were the action items? Yeah, what is the status of them? So we are looking at status updates of meetings. All right. And we're also looking at what are some of the current action items. Aparna is saying summary of all the points that were discussed in the meeting. Okay, so I have taken meeting notes and we have actually got two more ideas from them. And of course, yes, responsibilities, Monica is saying, that go along with the summary. So clear, probably a matrix indicating who's responsible for what. And it can be a matrix in which you can have a closed group where people can actually go from the team and update the status of that particular actionable. So if you are not seeing each other, or if somebody just wants to have a real-time update in terms of has this data been updated in this particular dashboard, they just go to the app, go to their team and that particular action item, and they see that Monica has gone ahead and updated the dashboard. So as you can see from the idea of, I have taken one idea of Pratik's, which is pending items, or sorry, meeting notes. And from there, y'all have come up with um, the minutes, okay, summary of all points, like Aparna said. So we can have a minutes of the meeting. We can have a responsibility or what they call a RAM in some project documents, which is your accountability matrix. And you all can have reminders of timelines. Maybe the app can incorporate reminders or sync it with your Google calendars. And can you all see from you guys, and even Bhakti has said, put in task assignments. Okay, so you all can actually come up with an agile weekly team format of activities that will let everybody know what's the focus for this week. And this is just with meeting no, this is just with pending items. I'm sorry, meeting notes. We have come up with 5 ideas for your app. So how does everyone feel about that? This is what we call concept extraction or concept elaboration, where we take one thing, which is meeting notes, and we've said, okay, we're not going to stop at that as a solution. That what if we look at meeting notes as just a concept of how to update people, and then we look at, okay, if the concept is how to update, what are the different updates that we can get and what are the different ways in which we can update. So like Monica is saying, absolutely, concept extraction is where you break things into elements. It's like when you are developing a website, okay, and the software developers will say, okay, how can I enhance this website from a user interface perspective? And then they say, all right, we can have a help section. And what is help for? Help is so that you can understand what certain fields are for, or you can ask questions. So from that help section, they come up with 2 very interactive ways. One is where you put your cursor over a word or over a question mark sign, and it gives you what is the information you need to fill in that particular box. And then the other one is different ways to get in touch with the company through chat services, through email, through customer facing, executives. That is what concept extraction is all about. Now, if what I'm going to do is, all right, you all can, I've just heard that one of our companies has in fact created an app and they've just updated it with live health updates of their people and live health benefits, like in terms of webinars on mindfulness, webinars on relaxation to reduce anxiety. What you can do is you can take the rest of those suggestions that were put down over there, like reminders or even deadline indicators, and you can expand into even further elements. Look at every answer as an element and try to get more out, try to get more suggestions on how you can meet it. So concept extraction. All right, that's one of the concepts. Now I know that we're going very fast, and I will give you some reference points as to how you can dwell deeper into this. And what I train and Vishal and myself will do is we'll also give you an email address where you can get in touch with us, okay? And I would be able to answer your questions and any query, any doubts that you may have. So I'm going to skip this next bit, all right? And I'm going to let you mull over this a little bit for yourself, okay, as something that you can do when you go back or get off this call, which is figure out an engagement plan, okay, for your employees, for your team members. And this is a post-lockdown engagement plan. This is when people are coming back to work in phases. They are unaware of, they're uncertain about the future. They don't know how safe it is to come back to work, or they're anxious about what is going to be the customer's requirements from them, what's going to be, the kind of strength that the company is going to need in terms of its workforce, whether they have a job, don't have a job. How can you come up with initial ideas and then, like Monica said, break them into elements, okay, and go ahead and break them into further solutions. So is it okay if I go ahead with the next concept over here, which is the childhood why technique, the ABCs of why? All right, so since I don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead. Now, when you hear about, asking the question why, Some of us, we go back. Let me take you back to your childhood, or let me take you back to this afternoon where you were sitting and trying to get something done, and your child was tugging on your shirt and asking you, "Daddy, but why?" or "Mummy, but why?" Why are things like this? And then when you give them an answer and you say, "Well, because I've got to work," and then they ask you, "But why?" Even though you've been working for the last 50 days at home. So it kind of takes you back to a childlike innocence. And always, whenever we were children and we were asked, we asked people the question why, there was always a very snap response that came to us. It was very quick. Some people entertained us, some elders after a certain point gave, they caved under the pressure of having to find answers, and some just got themselves in a loop. All right, so I'm going to show you all a way that you all can ask why, and not feel like you're staring at your feet after 3 rounds of answering. Okay, now the biggest problem when you're asking the question why is the place that you get stuck in a loop is when you think that you have got the answer's so obvious. Like, for example, I'm going to give you a very simple example. Why are blackboards black? So I'm going to ask you to get on chat. This is a quick 1 minute exercise. If I have to ask you, why are blackboards black? What would you answer? How would you answer that question? Go ahead and put your answers on, no matter, remember, yeah, because chalk is white, obviously, duh, because chalk is white. Okay, and they do not reflect back any light. Okay, now, obviously, when I ask the question, why are blackboards black? Because all colors go well on black. Okay, so I'm going to Bhakti. All right, you are going to be my muse for the next 2 minutes. My question is, my next question, okay, and I'm going to ask why again, Bhakti. So brace yourself, all of you. So when you say because all colors go well on black, if I have to ask you, but why do all colors go well on black? We're going to get into a loop, right? Yeah, because any color on black is properly visible. Black is a contrasting color. And then again, I'll get into why is black a contrasting color? And we seem to be dwelling more on, yeah, so we seem to be dwelling more on the fact that the blackboard is black, which was our problem in the first place anyway. Now that's how we get stuck in a loop. Now here's what I want you to do. I would like you to ask why, but ask why to another part of that answer, okay, which was because blackboards are, or because black is a contrasting color. So Bhakti said because all colors go well with black. So I'm going to say, why do we need black for all colors to go well? Think about it. Think about it. Why do we need black for all colors to go well? Can anybody now, what's the answers that come to your mind? Do we really need black that way? I mean, now in light of that question, do you really think that black is the only color? Use your chat bots. Remember, the more you're trying to justify black, okay, if you're right now, if your mind is trying to justify black, then it's okay. It's doing what it was taught to do, okay, which is logically reason. But now hold that idea in your head, which is why only black? Do we really need only black? Okay, so Monica says sometimes we go by rules, ideas without asking why. Okay, Bhakti is saying the retina identifies black better. Okay, all right. So, all right, wonderful. So, if let me answer both of those questions. So, sometimes we go by rules without asking why, and that's exactly what I wanted to get at, Monica. Okay, which is we uh, we have been given a lot of information since the time that we were in school, and we've not been taught how to use that information and organize it. So when we saw black boards, okay, and there were no other colored boards at all, is that the only, I mean, what we assumed is that black is the universal color for blackboards, but Exactly, like Monica says, well, these days there are whiteboards, and there are certain colors that go on whiteboards that you cannot see on blackboards, like your reds or your navy blues or your greens, which are used to highlight different things when you are giving a presentation. So when you ask why, all right, I'm going to give you a formula to this. There are three answers that you can get out of asking why. One is the very traditional and obvious answer, which is because, which is your B. And what does A and C stand for? Okay, so the first one is, so we're going to look at it backwards. C is, can this particular element be cut, or can we cancel it out, or can it be omitted? B is usually when you ask the question why and you get a because, it's because that's the most obvious answer. Ask why again then. Ask why to a different element in the question. And that takes us to the third thing, which is what are the other alternatives? So if we have to, like, I'll give you a very simple example, all right? Let's say that you are in a process, okay, where you have to get, for your customers to sign up with you, they have to submit certain documents. Maybe it could, if you're in the business of B2B, then you need your customers to submit certain financials of theirs or bank details and their company registration documents. But in a time like COVID, there's obviously, with social distancing, there is no availability to collect these documents. Your salespeople cannot go to the offices. Or even if you are into insurance, your clients cannot get to a place where they can even get a bank or any sort of notary to attest their documents. So I'm going to ask the question over here. Okay, like use the C, B, and A technique, or asking why, you know, and try to figure out an answer. What are the other, like, what kind of why questions can you ask over here? So give me one or two examples. Whoever is able to hit the nail on the head for the first two would would be really, kind of bringing it home for us in this stretch. So if you were looking at customers signing up with you, but your only problem is, I'll repeat myself, that they cannot physically get their documents attested, their company papers attested and submitted to you for verification. I would ask the question, why do they need to physically send us in their papers? Okay, so when I ask the question, why do they need to physically send in their papers? What's the answer that comes to mind? Is it so that we can have that on our records or we can verify it ourselves? So if it is, okay, process to manage audits, absolutely. You need these documents to verify the legitimacy of your transactions. Thank you for that, Alicia. So I'm going to ask, why does verification need to be only in the process of getting it audited by an authority? What is another way? So I'm going to ask why A. Why, or what is another alternative that we can come up with to go ahead and get customer documents verified? So I'll give you an idea right now. There's a process for a digital way. Absolutely. There's a process that a lot of companies have come up with where you are allowed to record by sending scanned copies, absolutely. And also where you hold up your documents in front of your phone, where there's a digital video recording that is happening on the company site that shows that you are the owner of those documents. So like you standing with your PAN card, your Aadhaar card to show physical, physical representation in terms of your identity, your address, and then correlating it to your company documents, like your director signatures or probably, your ownership documents. So exactly like you're saying, by sending in scanned copies right now, by using technology. So that's your why A. That has disrupted the process of being able to only submit physical documents. Another invention, okay, which is also something that's called a disruptive invention, is Uber or Ola. Earlier, your cabs were only your Meru cabs, which belong to a particular company. But Uber and Ola have come in and disrupted a marketplace just by creating an interface that does not own the cabs, but just connects people who are drivers who are sitting in our population and who can be utilized by giving them enough of financial aid and connecting them to a customer who needs their services. That has completely it has completely taken away the need to own a proper company with staff and with so much of the overheads. So that's your why of the ABC technique. Okay, it questions your status quo, it questions the elements, it questions your processes, what you're assuming to be currently true, and your beliefs. And the last one that I want to show you is this is the most fun one, and this is something that I want you to practice as we leave the session. It's what I call random stimulation. And to do this, I'm going to start with an example, okay, very quickly. As you can see the wind chimes there. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas around those wind chimes. So can when you look at those wind chimes, they might evoke certain feelings, they might evoke certain ideas, what you see about them. Just go ahead and put them in the notes. Just humor me for a minute. And if you can just fill those in your notes. In your chat, if you can tell me, okay, it's so Aparna saying it's relaxing. Okay, and any other, some of y'all might recognize the elements, like it's made out of glass and wood. In that image, it's all natural elements. It's pretty. Okay, so Pratik needs to leave us, and okay, all right, that's fine, Pratik. It was really nice having you. Anyway, I'm just closing the session, so I can definitely connect with you. All right, so it's relaxing. Now, what you can do sometimes is when you are looking at the problem to solve, you can actually pick up a random word from a dictionary or a random object that's right now in your field, or you go for a walk and you're looking at a tree. You can literally pick that particular random object that is unrelated to your problem, list down the characteristics. So when I looked at the wind chimes and I asked around, people said they were pretty. Their noises are calming and soothing, lovely elements. The setting is very natural, okay, and it also shows that the color tone of them is very earthy, and it's simple. And I can say, all right, so how would you use the concept of these different qualities of the wind chimes to go ahead and create a create a plan to reallocate employees from a current department that needs to be shut down. So how can you use some of the elements, like when we're looking at the glass, we can look at improve, like transparent communication. And when we look at transparent communication, again, break it down into its elements. If you're looking at something that is a natural setting, what I would say is look at their dominant skills or the skill sets that they've come from, so that they can have some sort of a continuity and migrate them back to those particular skill sets. Or if it is something that aspirationally you can move them into another skill set that they aspire to be in, and they show the required skill sets, it would be a natural setting, then go ahead and do that. So that this is what also, okay, moves into enhancing your creativity. Now, these are your everyday creativity techniques. One is, okay, take somebody who you dislike. All right, someone who sometimes gets your goat. Okay, it could be anybody. It could be colleague, it could be a cousin, a distant relative, even a manager who seems a little bit pedantic, and try to see what are some of the traits that you have that are similar to his. Now, at first blush, you're going to be thinking, oh, no, 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 we are completely different people. But this is how you become more creative. And this is how you become more relevant in the conceptual age, which is what is your ability to empathize with another person? Empathy is a great way of building creativity, which is being able to get more knowledge, more experience from another person. So you don't have to share all the nasty traits of that person. Sometimes both of you all can have strong points. And sometimes you looking at those strong points, it may make you a little less aggressive or a little less guarded and make you see their situation from your point of view. So it can be done for clients, customers who are currently very, very different from your modus operandi. It could also be done for interpersonal relationships. This is a creativity technique that goes miles for improving personal and interpersonal relationships at work and at home. And then you have mindfulness. Remember, I told you about, we were talking about, how you can go ahead and improve your creativity by in 30 seconds. So let's say, when we talk about creativity, you obviously have realized that now it's about the knowledge that you have, how your brain is associating meaning to certain words. So when you're going home or on a drive, you're caught in traffic. I urge you to just sit down and look at your surroundings, okay, and see something that will really catch your eye. Or it could be the hoarding of, on the highway. It could be a particular advertisement, on a board. But just look at it and try to see what elements you can break it up into and how they could be used individually. And with that, okay, the further associations that you're making, what we call, whenever you're creating further associations, and I'm going to show you this really quickly, we are not only using the left brain, okay, what we're also doing is we're using our right imaginative brain, what Alicia was talking about earlier, which is where the right brain is the house of how to perceive depth, how to perceive sound, how to be able to imagine and daydream and understand color. Some of us say that we are very logical brained, so we are more left brained. But I would say, okay, and so would Robert Sperry, who was a psychologist who did an experiment on 100 people. Okay, he gave the right brain people more left brain things to do, like math puzzles. How fun was that? And the left brain people, he asked them to read poetry. And at the end of it, what he realized is not only did, brain waves for certain tasks show in certain hemispheres of the brain, like whenever they were solving a math puzzle, the left brain hemisphere was more active, unlike when they were listening to a sonnet or music. But also, what he realized is, apart from the left brain and right brain, when one brain was active, one side was active, the other one went off to sleep. But the more that he forced your analytical people to do creative tasks, what he realized is both of the cortexes or both of the hemispheres started getting activated at the same time. So, in order to enhance your creativity, I would like to introduce you to a concept that you can do by yourself. Okay, you can research this as something that is a little more like it uses both sides of your brain, which is mind maps. It's a book. You get several books. It's written by Edward de Bono. And also, what you can do is, okay, you can look at getting more experiences, things that you would not try out earlier. Whenever you have like a real insight, carry post-its with you, which is what I do. I carry post-its with me everywhere and I write it down so that I don't forget it. Um, Things that give me joy, like play with children, play with your pets, you know, sit and stare at, something that really, really gets your fancy, like art, or learn about art on the internet. Anything that really is something that makes your imagination expand and also pushes you out of your comfort zone into a risk taking zone, that is where your creative resources are. So, I'm going to end with this. I know we've gone over our time limit, but I'm thanking you all for the patience that you all have shown. Um, Over here, if there are any questions off the top of your head that I can answer, and I'm going to try to answer them really in a matter of, 15 seconds, you all can use your chat bots to do that. Okay. You all can ask me anything in terms of, questions around creativity, or questions around how to debunk certain myths of creativity. Since I don't see anything coming in, I'm going to assume that all is well. Okay, and this is definitely a very vast concept, and I hope that I've scratched the tip of, just the tip of it and given you all some things to work with. So if we revisit the program agenda, we've done creativity and innovation, we've done 2 rules, and we've done actually 3 concepts along with the creativity bootcamp. Before we conclude, and you all will all get our contact details so that I can clarify specific questions that you may have or anything related to a problem you're currently experiencing. Because I do work with leadership or managers in terms of coaching them and processes that they're trying to design. So you all are free to take advantage of that, that aspect of our interaction. But before we leave, if we could just summarize one thing that we've learned today. So if each of you all can use your chat functions and summarize one thing that we've learned that was helpful to you all, that would be really, really helpful, and we can conclude the session and go forth and enjoy creativity for the rest of the day. So anything that you'll really liked about the session. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I have got also all of you are on hold. I can't take you all off hold. So if you all can just put this. Okay. So we have conversation and creativity and innovation. Okay. So all right. So Monica says it was a great refresher. All right, Monica, thank you very much for that. And anything that would have been an added insight, I really hope it helps you along the way. Thank you for being creative. You need not censor your thoughts, not be. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Aparna has. Okay, I can see that you're going to be really, really free. Okay, with your interpretations of how you can use this. So thank you everyone for this session, for being with us and bearing with us through the technical difficulties and all of it, and staying in step with how fast I was going. So thank you very much and have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you.